Mr. Weigel, let's start with you. The president loves talking to the media all day, every day. Yet today, as the markets were tumbling, he was nowhere to be found. What is your take on that?
Well, the president's also, and the White House has also cultivated a more friendly media intentionally. Fox is part of that. The interview he gave about recessions unexpectedly was part of that. They've let more people into the press corps, into the traveling press corps who are more sympathetic.
But even Fox,
and even in that context, yes, as you're saying.
But even Fox is struggling to rationalize the president's tariffs here.
Right, and they had Kevin Hassett, they had other members of the administration trying to explain it today. They've benefited from this idea, and you've probably heard from people you talk to, too, that maybe Trump will run on these things, but he's not going to do them. He's going to go to the edge, threaten a tariff, art of the deal, he's going to pull it back. The idea that this could be real and that they're willing to risk pain, short-term pain, although we don't know how long the term would be, in order to kind of onshore again lots of businesses to depend less on foreign trade. That is not what a lot of people who were betting on Trump, literally betting on Trump buying stocks 6 months ago, thought would happen. They thought there was a lot of bluster, and like the first term, he wasn't actually going to do it. He is doing that, and there are a lot of people who were not prepared for him to do it.
When the president took office, the economy was stable. Jobs were up. Inflation was stabilized. He was going to be the business president. Susan, if he basically would have kept his hands on 10 and 2, taken what President Biden had done, he would have had a much smoother run, because the fact of the matter is Donald Trump is much better at selling achievements than Joe Biden ever was. He could have simply sold what Joe Biden did to the American people, and it would have done well for him.
The thing is that Donald Trump is a man of not that many fixed principles stuff, but a belief in the beautiful, transformative, almost magical power of tariffs is something that has defined who he is in public life. And I think that it was a mistake made over time by many people to discount the fact that he would follow through now that he's surrounded by a much less let's just say, experienced group of advisors who's willing to, stand up and challenge him. What's another fixed view, taking Russia's side over Ukraine. A lot of people shocked about that here in Washington, in Europe. I mean, I'm hearing absolutely cataclysmic statements from European officials who really didn't believe that Donald Trump might actually do what he's been saying that he would do for a long time. I think those two things are connected. He does have a long-standing view in tariffs, and he seems to be moving forward with it.
But can we talk about that, David? Because tariffs do not create jobs, they do not lower prices, and they do not make other countries pay up big time. What they do is force businesses to owe Donald Trump big time if he creates exemptions for them. When are people going to realize that's the game here?
Well, I think a lot of them have realized that that's the game. That's why over the past couple of months in Washington, well, a little bit less than a couple of months since the inauguration, there's been a lot of lobbying activity to try and win exemptions, and specifically from the president personally, because he's so involved in this.
And he loves that.
Yes, he does. And because the administration is still standing up so many of the process positions that you normally go through. But I do think, there's something to this in that so many supporters of the president, or people that just thought, listen, between him and Kamala Harris, I don't like my choices, but I'll go with him because he's going to be better for the economy, better for deregulation, better for energy. They didn't think that this term would be any different than the first term. There'll be a lot of bluster. There'll be a lot of, negotiating for leverage. But at the end of the day, he's not going to do anything that's really that much different than what I would think of as a Reaganite Republican doing. They didn't take him seriously on the campaign trail. They didn't listen to what he said, and they didn't pay attention to the fact that he believes in tariffs. And Stephanie, we've all covered people in Washington who are ideological. It's an ideological place. People come here with lots of points of view. And they often believe that if I could only do what I want to do in a pure form, it would work. Right? People from the left who believe that socialism would work if I could only do it all the way. They've believed that for years. Donald Trump believes if I could only be aggressive with tariffs, it would work. And I think the one thing that the president isn't counting on, because if you listen to what he has said, is that the U.S. is always a sucker, and that all of these other countries would fold like cheap suits if somebody would only get tough with them. And I think what he's going to figure out over time is that these other countries may not have the economy the size of ours, clearly the military strength that we have, but they do have pride. And if we push them with tariffs, they will push us right back. And I guess we're going to find out who was right? If Donald Trump is right, then over the course of the next couple of years, this thing will end up paying off. And if he's wrong, then voters are going to say, I elected you to bring down prices. You're clearly fixing the border. That's good. But you're not bringing down prices. You're making my life harder. And I'm upset with that. And there's an election coming up next year. And that's when people can register their disagreement.
I want to share quite a bit of things that Donald Trump said on the campaign trail about the economy, but specifically about the markets, because right now they're talking like, don't pay attention to the markets, move on. But the stock market is what Donald Trump has talked about over and over and over. Even when the stock market was going up towards the end of the Biden administration, he credited himself, saying people are getting excited because they know I'm coming. But here's a bit of that.
You want to see a market crash? If we lost this election, I think the market would go down the tubes. We're going to have a crash, and we're going to have a crash like a 1929 crash if she gets in.
Okay, so fast forward, we got trade wars, we got inflation, we got massive layoffs, we got these high egg prices. We know what Donald Trump wants to do. You just said it. How do Republicans go to their home districts and sell this to their voters?
You don't sell this to your voters. They're between a rock and a hard place. They're not in a position to oppose Trump in a very aggressive way because their own voters are still supportive of Trump, and they want to give him a chance for his agenda to work. And yet they know that if it doesn't work, what's going to happen next year may not be good for their job prospects. And so I think what they're hoping to do is to get to this reconciliation package, right, past the government funding bill that we're going to talk about, get to the reconciliation package with the tax cuts and some of the border security money and some of the other things that they're selling as being able to help grow the economy. And they're thinking, we'll pass this. It's a big campaign promise. It'll help grow us out of whatever rocky economic conditions we're feeling right now. And we're going to be able to go home and say, here's what we did. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security.
Okay, but let's be clear. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security. That's not even in the proposed budget right now. Donald Trump spoke about it in his joint address last week. But when you actually look at what's in this budget, that's not in there.
Oh, no, there are no details in there about how they're going to do this, what the pay-fors are. There has been a Republican discussion about changing the baseline so that we assume these tax cuts from 2017 are extended. Based on that, we can keep spending money. We can keep cutting taxes without presuming it adds debt, even though it does. But Republicans are very adjustable to what Donald Trump is saying on taxes, on the risks of this transition that he's talking about. You've already saw Tommy Tuberville today leading with a lot of other Republicans saying, well, maybe Biden left an economy that wasn't sustainable and we do need to claw it back. Maybe some of these gains were inflated and Donald Trump is getting us to a better place. That was not what he ran on. The assumption was definitely he was going to bring 2019 prices back without any cost.
Tommy Tuberville is an extreme example. Whatever Donald Trump says, Tommy Tuberville, I mean, think about Tommy Tuberville turning himself in knots, trying to rationalize, yeah, I recruited Patrick Mahomes when he didn't even do it because he didn't want to make Trump look like a liar. When John Thune is saying that, that's a different story, not necessarily Tommy Tuberville.
That's true. A leading indicator or outlier, I'm not sure. But I've seen this so many times with Republicans. If the choice is between contradicting Donald Trump and facing the wrath from voters or from the supportive media that we're talking about, or adjusting to what Donald Trump is saying, they at least rhetorically adjust. Before there's real pain, before there's blame, even have Republicans saying the line, which is that this economy right now is the Biden economy. Any pain in the economy, any pain in the stock market is left over from Joe Biden. They were saying during the election that people were buying stocks because they expected Trump to win. Forget that, new script. And that does give him breathing room through this process that David was talking about, through the period where they're going to pass the agenda they ran on and say, maybe it's going to work come November.